And hello, everybody, and welcome to the League Scene's first ever Team List Tuesday. We are live. It's great to have you all with us, wherever you may be watching. So, we are going to go through all the team lists for this week's preseason challenge matches. Some will be in a little bit sooner than others, but we're going to go through all of them. We're going to go through each player, highlight the pros and the cons of the week as it happens. Now, it's just ticked over to 4 o'clock. So we are going to go through these team lists one at a time. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go through the preseason matches that aren't affiliated with the NRL. So we're going to go through the Brisbane Broncos team list first because they're taking on Burleigh this weekend. And that is all very important. So let's go through this team. There we go. So we've got Latrell Seagwald at fullback. He was a trainer trialist that we've seen regularly. He had a big Kuru knockout in 2023. That's from get a trainer trial deal with the South Logan side last year. And then obviously he's gone on to the Broncos this year. So very interesting to see how Latrell kicks on in this one. Bulldogs v Manly, round 21 at Allianz. I like that. 30 years since the grand final. Very, very interesting. Keep the comments coming through, guys. And, of course, don't be afraid to subscribe. On the wing, Sione Hopewadi. He had a great year with Wynnum last year. A really, really talented player. He's been in the Broncos systems for a little while now. So it'll be interesting to see how he fares throughout this one. Ronnie Fultoiga. This one is another trainer trialist that Madge has. Was part of the Fiji squad for the Internationals last year. He was also the leading try scorer for the Brisbane Tigers in and amongst the group last year. Josiah Karapani and Deloise Hoyter in the centres. Is great to see Deloise back. He had a big injury last year, so it is very, very interesting to see him back in this side and see how he fares after not playing for the best part of 12 months. And, of course, Josiah Karapani there. I think Broncos fans are still in that love-hate relationship with Josiah after what was a very interesting year last year. At 5'8", we got Josh Rogers. We know what Josh can do at the NRL level. We've seen it for a number of years now. Made his first grade debut a little while back, but very, very good to see him in that spot. And then you've got Jock Manning captaining the side at halfback. So very, very good to see there. The forwards, though, this is where things get a little bit interesting. We've got Bente Kura up front. Now, Benny is a player that is a very interesting product. He's such a huge behemoth of a man. He's a huge forward, but they've just got to use him right. Tyson Smoothie at hooker. We know what Tyson can do. We've seen that. Interesting, he's fallen this far down the pecking order, so I think a couple clubs, hint, Parramatta, hint, North Queensland, might get on the lower to him before them. Matt Colliner at prop. This one's a bit of an interesting one, and I'll tell you why this is interesting, because he is going to play the first half against for Brisbane, and he's going to play the second half for Burleigh. So it's going to be a very interesting dynamic. I'm sure the teammates are going to give him a bit of a rib about that one. And then you got Tristan Powell. Tristan, we know he has experience with the Melbourne Storm, and we know what he can offer, so that will be a very interesting watch there. Jaden Hunt, we saw him play on the edge last year. Very interesting to see here as well. What is his best spot? What isn't his best spot? Is it on the edge? Is it in the middle? We're not going to see it for sure in this one, but definitely it's something we'll see in the next one. Luke Gallett, very consistent with Wynnum this year. He's one to keep an eye on with Wynnum. Trainer trialist as well. A couple of these guys are also trainer trialists, like Lachlan West and Cam Bukowski. Bukowski, I think, is on a supplementary deal, sorry. Leota is top 30. We saw him in the under-19s origin last year. Things didn't quite go the way he wanted to in that one. Glenn Vayu, he's come across from rugby union, but all eyes are on Kobe Black, the halfback. He is a player that can be a lot. He can do ball dominant half. He can be a great kicker. Where he fits at the moment, very much up in the air. He kind of feels like he's behind a little bit. But remember, the kid's young. He just played under 19s origin last year, and he's already playing open age football. I think we need to reserve judgment on Kobe for a little bit, see how he fares, and everyone just needs to calm down. Brayford Scott, I haven't heard too much about him, but hopefully he goes well. Josh Corrick comes from the from St George Illawarra, beg my pardon. He's with Wynnum. Jet Bryce is on a supplementary deal this year. Saxon Innes is on a trainer trial. Callum Egling as well on a trainer trial coming across from South's Logan. So that's the Broncos team that's going head-to-head with the Burleigh Bears this weekend. Moving on to our next team on this fast-paced Team List Tuesday program, it is going to be the Dolphins taking on the Central Queensland Capras, and their team looks like this. They've got Tafita Nafahu at fullback, Cooper Marshall and Ethan Quay-Ward on the wings. We've seen Ethan Quay-Ward in the past with Brisbane, also Canterbury. Tavita Nafahu, the fullback, comes from the New Zealand Rugby initially. He's on a supplementary deal with them this year. Cooper Marshall, Brian Poinu, and LJ Nonu in the backs as well. They all did a summer with the Dolphins. Ben Stefanovic, he was part of the trainer trial group with the Dolphins. He's going to be at the North Devils this year. And at halfback, Dan Tory Louis. He was initially part of a Northern Pride group. He's come down with their coach, Eric Smith. The forwards, Josh Allen and Ryan Jackson. Jackson is on a supplementary deal. Harrison Graham, the hook, is an interesting talking point. I was talking with their beat reporter, Joel Gould, this week, and he put out a really important article this week just after Team List Tuesday, where he said he must give Jeremy Marshall-King the support he needs. And I think he's right about that, because you see that Max Plaff's been preferred in the past, Kurt Donahoe's been preferred in the past. It feels like that this year, everything's clean slate. Everything is on the line for these guys. And if Christian Wolf sees effort, sees reward, he's going to 100% give it to him. And I think that's what Harrison Graham can do in this side. And it's going to be a very interesting watch. On the edges, Orblix Tower. Now, this young guy is a guy that the Dolphins can rate. I'm just going to get the notes up from the trainer trial podcast we did earlier in the year. And Tawa has been a part of this system for a long time now. Let me just get my notes up here. Bear with me. Tower. Shining light last year, earning a supplementary deal with the NRL squad. He scored 7 tries, averaged over 100 metres, made 450 tackles last year, and a hard worker, breaking 39 tackles on that edge. Given competition for spots, he'll have to work incredibly hard to get that spot. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that unfolds. Peter Holler on the other edge. Very interesting to see how that one unfolds. He's come across from Canberra, and it's going to be an interesting one with Holler. He's proven himself for a while, but it kind of feels like he went backwards at Canberra, with all due respect. So very keen to see how he unfolds. And then the lock forward, Mason Teague. Now, Mason is probably going to captain this side. Very hard worker. We saw him play first grade last year. I think it was only the one game, but he was an absolute stud in that North Devils team that went on to win the state championship. Very, very good player. And I think that he's got a lot of potential there. And if Christian Wolf can just get the best out of him, then he will go a long, long way. On the bench, my co-host Reese is in the States at the moment, and he is absolutely gutted that he cannot go through this name with me. Will Partridge in a pear tree, one of our favourite players, one of our unsung heroes on the league scene is Will Partridge. He had an absolutely monstrous year in the Northern Pride last year. 16 tries in 16 games, averaged 150 metres. He'll be a strong addition to that Redcliffe side, of course, coming down with Eric Smith. Jordan Lipp is there as well. He had a really good season with the North Devils, coming down, I think, initially from North Queensland. Michael Wanga is a front rower that they really need to kick on. He was in a supplementary list last year, played a couple of games in Q Cup. He is one player that they desperately need to kick on. John Finnegan-Offa, he was in the Dolphins Queensland Cup side last year that played in the grand final. What do I have here on Finnegan-Offa? Talented outside back. He's been part of the system for a little while now. Played in the under-19s last year, which is the Malmaninga Cup. Played 6 games in Q Cup, all critical woods down the stretch. I think his role only gets bigger with Trey Fuller in the side, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And then also a couple of train and trialists there, including a supplementary player, Lewis Simons, who was really good in the under-19s Origin game. But I know everyone's probably panicking. We haven't touched the NRL trials yet, so that is what we are going to do right now. We are going to look at these first ones. We're going to start on Friday night, the one between Cronulla and the Warriors. We're going to kick off with Cronulla. They've got Will Kennedy at fullback. He's going to get an opportunity. Sione Katoa and Sam Stonestreet on the wing. Sam Stonestreet is a player that has a very high upside. We've all spoken about it for a number of years now, and hopefully this year is the year for him to get a crack, because we've seen that he's too good for reserve grade. But then the question becomes, which Cronulla winger gets the tap? Mulatalo, definitely not going to be the one to get a tap. So you kind of feel that Katoa and Stonestreet, that's going to be a bit of a talking point to come out of this preseason challenge match for sure. Morwin Hilrodi at centre. He's been a bit of a journeyman around the league for a couple of years now. We all know what Morweni can do. Kalilo, he had the breakout 2024. He finally climbed over the hump to play first grade, and boy, oh boy, did he prove himself. A tackle-busting machine. He ran the ball efficiently out of his own end. That's exactly what you want for Kaolilo, and hopefully he can put together a full season this year, because good luck trying to stop him if you do so. The halves, Daniel Atkinson and Niwai Pulu. Atkinson, of course, off to the Dragons next year. Very, very interesting to see how he goes. What role do the Sharks have for him next year? Does he go to Newtown all year? Does he play off the bench? There's all sorts of interesting questions that Craig Fitzgibbon will answer. And then Niwai Pulu. Oh, Niwai Pulu. Now, we have a bit of a love-hate relationship as well with Niwai Pulu on this show, because we love the attacking work, but defensively, he is a liability. He missed the most tackles in the New South Wales Cup last year. He missed 130. The next worst was 87. So there was a big gulf in the numbers there last year with Niwai Pulu. So it'll be very interesting to see how that unfolds. But let's look at this forward pack. Very competitive forward pack now. Brian Hamwood-Welle and Tom Hazelton up front. Be interesting to see what the minutes look like for these guys. We're not really sure what they're going to look like yet. Jaden Beryl at hooker. Probably the best hooker going around that is not playing in the NRL at the moment. He's super consistent, super fit, super durable. Fingers crossed for a good year this year. Moving on to the rest of the pack, Sifa Talakai and Billy Burns. I think Guru's finally got his wish, boys. Billy Burns is on the edge starting in a game of rugby league. But all jokes aside, Guru, very interesting to see what they do there with Sifa as well. They've got him on the edge at the moment, but he can have that durability to go into the middle and kind of be that all-round utility. Billy Burns is there. He'll only get it at his side if there's injuries, and that's not being disrespectful. He's a very good, consistent player across the board. It'll be interesting to see how he goes, I should say, in this squad. We also got Oregon Corfusi in at lock. Now, Cameron McInnes is obviously their first-string lock. A bit surprised not to see Hohepa Prudu in this one. He might be on All-Stars duty. I'm not too sure. We'll have to look at the bench. But very interesting to see that they're going really physical to match what this Warriors pack is doing. And speaking of Hohepa Peru, look where he is, ladies and gentlemen. He is on the bench in jersey 14. I really like this guy. I think he is really, really durable, and a really underrated signing that not a lot of people are talking about. Was our League C New South Wales Cup lock of the year, was very close to being our player of the year. Tuku Hautafua, he is an absolute monster, this bloke. He is huge. And we saw him absolutely smash it last year in the first grade squad. Lachlan Crouch, he was in their jersey flag squad for Cronulla. They had a really interesting year, the Sharks jersey flag squad. I'm sure Savo Dan and Sharkcast and all those other good Sharks programs have touched on it ad nauseum. But they were sort of rock bottom of the jersey flag competition. And then they came back to nearly win it. So some notes on Crouch. He was a regular in their flag side in 23. He had an injury interrupted season last year, looking to become a Newtown regular. And then you got Blake Hosking, who is an absolute workaholic. A breakout year for him last year, and his consistency has seen him earn a trial appearance. He averaged just under 100 metres a game last year and tackled at 93% in that middle third. So definitely one to keep an eye on there. Now, these good crop of youngsters. We'll get to the ones on the Warriors side in just a moment, but take our attention over to this Sharks side of things at the moment. So, Chris Vailila, an outside back we've seen play with Newtown over the last couple of years. He was a Newcastle product initially. Very, very strong upper body, but very interesting to see how he unfolds in this one. Kyle Pickering, he was an Italian international. He had his best season in open age football, finding a home on the edge for Newtown, scoring 5 tries in 21 games, can run great holes, and he's a very strong defender. Michael Gabriel, we've got his brother playing at Canterbury at the moment, but this young man is a very strong product. He there's a lot of good side of his game, but there's also some weaknesses as well. Very, very physical product. Brad Fernley, another one that did a summer. He came to the Jets from the Panthers pathway system. He played most of his most games rather in a season this year, carrying the ball with intent and defended at 95% consistency. Taj Ford, though, very good young half in this Sharks flex side. He and Riley Pollard, who's the next name on this list, have had a very good combination, and they got that side. We'll probably see them run around in the second half as well. Next up, though, Riley Pollard. And Riley is a very good young kid. He was an Australian schoolboy representative, I believe, a couple of years ago, 2023. Snapped up under the noses of the Penrith Panthers. And he had something like 25 try assists last year in Jersey flag. He had just as many line break assists. Got a good all-round kicking game. Is also a goal kicker as well. Still flag eligible, which is scary. And the sky's the limit with Riley. And I'm sure his family would be very, very proud of him. Next up, Eli Clark. He's come across from the Bulldogs. He made his NRL debut last season. He is a very interesting product to keep an eye on. Probably a Newtown Jet-only player, but we'll see how we go. Injuries and stranger things have happened. Next up, Christian Dixon. And I'm sure Haley and a couple of the gang will be amiss if I don't talk about Christian Dixon. The bloke is lightning. The bloke is absolutely lightning. He starred with the Sharks jersey flag side this season. He did play a couple of games with Newtown, but with Tom Rodwell, a couple other players departing, Dixon should get first dibs and practically cement a wing three-quarter position in this squad moving forward. He's one that the Sharks are earmarking for the future. He can do some great things in attacking territory and can roll the sleeves up out of his own end. Next up, Felix Fartilli. Now, I got a bit of criticism in the train and trial episode for the way I commented on Felix Fartilli because I compared him to Franklin Pele, but I just said that he's got a better attitude than Franklin Pele, and this dude's a monster. His brother has just been snapped up to play with Wakefield in England, so very interested to see how he unfolds there. And then the final bloke, Sam McCulloch. Before we get to McCulloch, I'll just give a little bit more background on Fartilli. This bloke can go from 0 to 100 like that. He is so durable and so dynamic as a forward that the Sharks have got a really dynamic player here, and they've just got to nurture him right. That's the only question mark. Next up, Sam McCulloch in jersey 27. He captained the Sharks to their Jersey Flag Grand Final appearance this season, last year. To make the achievement even more special, the Sharks were struggling in the flag, as I mentioned, before an improbable winning streak saw the Sharks run over the rest of the competition to make a big dance. He's a hard worker at lock that can mix ball playing with stern defense. So looking at a couple of the guys that I have mentioned here, Gabriel's one to keep an eye on. Pollard and Ford are there to keep an eye on. Dixon, Fartilli, McCulloch, Hohepapuru is there as well. Moving on to the Warriors, and they're going pretty much full strength. Chance at fullback, Dallin and Roger on the wings. Now, this is one that's going to get a lot of people talking, but Roger the Dodge on the wing, probably his best position, I feel, because I kind of feel like he was wasted and in the centers last year. And for the sake of Andrew Webster, I've just got to hope they can get something right there with Roger, because it just felt like they didn't get the best out of Roger last year. And I know it's a little bit of a hot take, but I'm a little bit uneasy about where they sit in the future. In the centers, we get our first look at Ali Leotower. Adam Pompey gets the first call of the year. Rocco Berry not playing in this one, but so the first call does go to Pompey. Speaking of first calls, Tamari Martin and Luke Metcalf seem to be the permanent halves combination. Tana Boyd not named in this one. It is a Martin-Metcalf halves combination. Metcalf, interestingly, in the 7. Of course, we saw Martin play in the 7 a little bit last year, but it will be the roles reversing. But this forward pack might be even scarier than it's ever been. I know you take Vanua Blake out, and I know you take a couple other players out, but Fisher Harris goes in there. Egan, Barnett, that's arguably a top echelon front row hooker combination in the league. Jacob Labour gets the first run on the edge. Kurt Capel's there along with Aaron Clark, who gets the first call at trying to replace Tohu Harris. Their bench looks like this. They've got Dimitric, Malga, Nick Corday is there on the bench as well, Graham Taufer and Carly. No Jackson Ford either. I think he might be battling an injury of some sort. So very interesting to see that one. Their reserves, there's a couple of names here. Keep your eyes on. Ed Cossey is one. We've seen him play in the outside backs in NRL level before, where he fits long term. Again, who knows? Luke Hanson, the youngster Dominic's college product himself. He had his first year in open age football last year. He had a swag of try assists. He led the Warriors to their first for another finals appearance in New South Wales Cup. But the name a lot of people are going to be talking about is Jet Cleary in jersey 21. Now, I want to be careful with how we assess Jet here because straight away people are going to see this name in the team sheet and compare him to Nathan. They're two completely different players. They've got similar traits, but they're two completely different players. And they should be not being compared. Jet's gone over there on his own wish. He's gone over to try and make his name for himself outside of Nathan and Ivan, and he deserves a full opportunity to do that. And he's only going to get that chance to do so if people shut up. And it's a hard reality, but you got to let Jet succeed outside his own environment. He played some open age football last year, but outside of that, this is really his first chance of open age rugby league. He played some Sydney Shield last year, but he didn't play Cup. He didn't play Ron Massey, which is our sort of our second and fourth tier underneath flag. He played a bit of flag last year as well, but he's going to age out of that slowly. I think he's got a couple of years left of flag, so he can go back there as well. Tuapiki is there as well. Now, with Tane, this is a bit of an interesting one. I thought I would have seen his name a little bit higher, but obviously we don't take the numbers in these trial games seriously. Tuapiki's a good fullback. We know that from last year. Was our League C New South Wales Cup fullback of the year as well. So again, fingers and toes crossed he can just keep pushing because if the Warriors struggle like a couple of people are predicting, Andrew Webster might shake this team up. He might move Chance to centre. He might play Tuapiki at fullback. There's a lot of things that could happen to see Tuapiki coming to that fullback spot. Dan Amatawangai, he's in there. He's come across from Penrith. He's a great outside back, good finisher. Bunty Arfal, we know what we get from Bunty. Eddie Aramia Toyava is a Swiss Army knife. He can play fullback. Sorry, not fullback. Definitely not fullback. He can play in the centres. He can play in the middle. He can play on an edge. He can play centre at a pinch as well. I think I might have already mentioned that. But a lot of different options there for Aramia Toyava. And given that Zion Mauu's already been released to go to Canterbury, there's a lot of interesting scenarios at stake for Eddie this season if he pulls and works his backside off. Same with Tanner Stowers-Smith in jersey 28. Dylan Walker and Freddie Lussick are there. But the main wild card here is Sam Healey. Now, Sam, I think, is in a bit of an interesting spot. He's gone over to the Warriors, outside of Cronulla, outside, I guess you could say, of his father's shadow. But I really like this guy. I think there's a lot of untapped potential here with Sam that we haven't seen yet. So fingers and toes crossed, he goes over to the Warriors. I have a sneaky hunch he may debut this year. If he does, he's probably going to be around that 25, 30-minute player because Wade Egan, we know what he's like with his body at the moment. He's just can't seem to shake the injuries, the poor bugger. So I think the Healy signing does come at a good time for the New Zealand Warriors. And our final team list of the day comes courtesy of the final match of the week. It is the Penrith Panthers taking on the Canberra Raiders. Let's take a look at this Penrith side. There's some unfamiliar names here. Dane Laurie at fullback. The McLean brothers, they get their chance on the Stings. Jesse and Casey, that just gives you the earliest indication that they are both fighting for a spot. Sione Fonua is in the centres. Now, from my notes on Sione Fonua, he was in the brothers sort, Samari sort of system over the last couple of years. He's really worked his tail off in that spot, so it's very good to see him get a reward, I guess you could say, for that and get a good run over the course of this trials. And then you got AJ Kepa-Awa. He's a consistent body. He's a bigger bodied centre to what we're used to seeing, but again, very good opportunity for him to kind of stack a claim for a potential bench spot because you know that Ivan has had a tendency in the past of having that liking to have that cover. We saw it with Hosking when he could go out to play centre. So it'd be very interesting to see how that one unfolds. But then the halves, Cole and Schneider, these guys are really just looking to push Blaze Talangi all the way for him to earn his meal ticket. If I'm Jack Cole, I'd be feeling a little bit dirty given the way that they signed Blaze Talangi. But at the end of the day, we'll be seeing him in this one go round. On the forward pack, Lurin Pataya and Preston Ricky up front, two very talented forwards in Penrith's reserve grade side last year. Very physical in the way they go about their work. Luke Sumner at hooker, he's a very sneaky bugger. He likes to run around, roam around from dummy half. Very talented in terms of when he picks his moments to run. Mav Guy on the edge, he needs a big year, I feel, Mav. There's a lot of players that have snuck up and pushed in a particular spots, like your Rickies and your Pateas. Now that Isaiah Papali'i is here, like there's limited room for spots and competitions that are high. Speaking of Isaiah Papali'i, he's where my attention turns next. Very keen to see how Papali'i goes at Penrith, and he had a bit of a decline the last couple of years, I think it's safe to say. So I'm very intrigued to see how that unfolds. Very intrigued to see how that unfolds as well, because he had a bit of a down year last year. So be very interesting with IPAP, because all the talk has been about him going to the Penrith and him succeeding. And I think you could say that about a lot of different players over the past. It's like they go to Penrith and they grow about 10 feet tall, just like the Melbourne thing. But it feels like Isaiah's in a sort of prove-it year after the last couple of years at the Tigers. And then you got Mr. Consistent at lock, Matt Eisen, who, if you know what you get from him. On the bench, a couple of youngsters we've got here. We have Trent Tolau. We saw him go around last year with the Ron Massey Cup side. And then he got into that Panthers spot. He made his NRL debut, a very talented player. Harry Hassan, he's an edge player. We've seen him go into battle with the Panthers in the New South Wales Cup. Good to see him back for another year. John Sagaga and Riley Waite, two Panthers that started the year in flag, worked their way up into Cup. All these guys here on your screens, we've seen over the course of a number of different competitions, but some names I want you to keep an eye on. Zach Lamont, the former Queensland under-19 half. He's a very talented player, Zach Lamont. Ended up playing Cup last year when the Panthers had some injury problems. So very good to see him do battle. Nicola Apulu, he's one that's in their flag squad last year. I think he may have played a handful of Cup games. David Farley, very talented outside back. He's in their supplementary list. Very, very good mover of the football. Defensively, he can be a little bit suspect at times, but very intrigued to see how he goes in this environment. But for Lefa Letoi, now I'm a little bit filthy on Penrith about this one, because he was in the Roosters affiliation pathways through the Glebe system, and he got snapped up by Penrith. And my God, this bloke can move. He's got big leg speed, good play the ball. He's an absolute unit. And I think at Penrith, he's a bit of a thriver. Billy Scott, he's a talented 9. Penrith let Riley Smith go for him. That says it all. Riley's very talented, absolutely kicking goals at Parramatta. Jackson Edgar in 23. Now, this young kid, I don't like to say could be anything off him, but there's a lot of intrigue around Edgar. He's a very similar mold to Edwards, and you kind of feel like with Iongi leaving and Dane Laurie potentially being a utility every now and again in the NRL squad, he will make his Cup debut this year, no question marks about it. Just a matter of when. Lipowicz, we saw him on an edge. Sam Lane's a very classy outside back. Was given an opportunity a couple of years ago. He's been in and out of Cup and flag. Hopefully, he learned his lessons with St Mary's last year, can really back that up a little bit more. Billy Phillips, he's a talented sort of hybrid edge middle that we'll get to see run around. But Nick Murphy, he was sort of the name that was being floated around as potentially starting in this one. I think Fatima Cadeau and a couple other beat journos had that one, but he has to come via the bench. But he's a good young kid, Nick Murphy. Averaged 150 metres a game last year in Cup for his limited stints. So it'll be very interesting to see how he unfolds in this game. But on to the Raiders, we haven't forgot you guys, of course, down in the capital. Chevy Stewart at fullback. Kind of feels like a make it or break it year for Chevy. It's weird to say that, but Jordan Rapid is gone. Kyo Weeks shone last year. There's a very limited opportunity for spots. And Chevy had to bite his tongue and finish the year in reserve grade with Rapina playing as well as he did. So I think Chevy will let his performances on the field do the talking. We saw it in the under-19s origin, that it can make a difference. Michael Asamoah and Jed Stewart on the wings. Albert Hopawai, Manaya Waitieli. Interestingly, in this one, no Servilio Tamale. So maybe that's a hint that Ricky Stewart being a bit forward-thinking for next week against the Sharks. Bit more of a duel-off between Asamoah and Stewart as well. Both absolute youngsters coming through the ranks. Adam Cook and Ethan Sanders in the halves. Of course, Ethan Strange predicted to be the 6. Whether that's the case, we don't know. Good opportunity for Cook and Sanders to keep putting the pressure on. And, of course, Adam Cook was the New South Wales Cup, the official New South Wales Cup Player of the Year. Unfortunately, Mr. Sharks Tack, so I couldn't shag about my agendas. That's okay, Hales. You can rewind and have a look at it. I gave you a wrap on a couple of players there, particularly Dixon and Fartilli. I even mentioned the Franklin Pele jab just for you. Let's go through the middle. We got Jordan Martin and Pasami Saulo. These guys are going to be looking to knock on the front door for spots. Martin did make his NRL debut. That was his brother, Noah. Noah made it. Was it Noah or Jordan? May have been Jordan. I'm not too sure. Let me have a very brief check because it was down in Melbourne and the poor bloke got a HIA. And it was not good because Ricky was talking about him all week and he only got to play like 2 minutes. Yeah, it was Jordan Martin. So a bit disappointing the way it ended for Jordan in his maiden game, but more minutes will come in first grade for him. Owen Paddy at hooker now. I've spoken with Mal Meninga. I've spoken with people in Canberra. This guy is their future 9. Obviously, there's been stuff that's come out about Tom Starling potentially leaving. They are all guns blazing on this young kid. Was the Jersey Flag Player of the Year last year, led the New South Wales Cup in 40-20s, believe it or not, too. So that is very, very good signs. Sasangyo on an edge. He was sort of a Swiss Army knife for Canberra last year. But Matty Nicholson's the one that a lot of Supercoach people, I know Supercoach Whisperer has been very, very high on him this season. Price around 330k. So it'll be very interesting to see how Matty Nicholson sort of fares in to this squad. And you got Miles Martin that locked under 19s New South Wales product that's come down from Newcastle. On the bench, Isaac Tuitupo Thompson, we know him. The other guys are young Jersey Flag products. They won the minor premiership in Flag last year, I'm led to believe. Onto their reserves, Noah Martin, his brother. They both have mullets, these Martin brothers, so good luck telling them apart in commentary. Peter Tatau in 21. He looks the goods from what we saw in Cup last year. He bagged a hat-trick in the first half of one of those games against Newcastle. Jake Clydesdale, he's a very similar sort of model build. I like to say sort of like a Dane Tilse, very, very bulky. And then you got Jalen Afamasaga, Keon Skips, Joe Roddy, Mitchell Preston, Jackson Lavender, all knocking the house down on that front. But those are this week's team lists for the opening week of the pre-season challenge. First week, we're doing it in this format. So if you've got any questions, leave it down below. Don't forget to subscribe. We've got over 100 subs here already, so make sure you keep adding to that down below there. And we'll continue posting stuff all throughout the preseason on our Twitter at League Scene Pod. And until next week, same time, same place. We'll catch you next time. Take care, everyone.